BYOC.
Bring your own cake?
No, that's be your own coach.
You know, that's pretty good advice. We should coach ourselves, but there are times when we need others to coach us. So coming up, a conversation with one of America's great talent agents and life coaches.
That's next on Radically Rational, the podcast.
Hello and welcome to this episode of Radically Rational, the podcast. We're bringing facts back into fashion. We're trying to make simple sanity sexy again. We are eschewing crazy because crazy is not cool. So those are the rules. If I violate them, I get busted by an 8-year-old girl.
That's just not logical.
Thank you, Granddaughter Scout. I'll have another. Okay, I'm Paul. This is Anthony. We've been friends for a long time. And Anthony, will you go with me on this? I think we are very similar people in a lot of ways.
Very much so.
And some areas where there's some differences. But I think one of the ways in which we're very much the same is we're both highly motivated and very much self-starters.
Oh, without a doubt. I think we like to aspire higher. And, you know, we like a mission, we like a goal, and we like to try to hit those goals.
Yeah. So, you know, we all want to coach ourselves, but it's been my experience that you can't push yourself as hard as you can with your best effort, but also some good outside coaching. That's why we have coaches. We got the very best. I'm excited about this. My goodness, you look at this gentleman's resume. Super agent, super lifestyle coach, world-class tennis player throughout his life in various age groups. This guy is in it for all the right reasons. He describes himself as a life coach. He can back it up. Joining us from Los Angeles, Ken Lindner. Thank you so much. Yes. Anthony and I have been so much looking forward to this. How are you?
I'm great, Paul and Anthony. It's a pleasure to be with you both.
Okay, when I was reading your book, and we're going to get deeply into your book in just a second, and of course I'm also familiar with your bio. You know, sometimes people cast themselves as life coaches, and for whatever reason you kind of doubt or question their sincerity a little bit. Helping people is clearly your life's goal. Now, when did you develop that? Is that part of your nature, or did you have some kind of epiphany about that?
Well, it comes from my very early youth when I was a very insecure and troubled youngster because my dad was always working and my mom was always at home. So I intuited as a 3, 4, 5-year-old youngster that, oh, my mom's always here, so she must love me. And my dad is never around because he's always working and he must not love me. So I didn't get his approval. I felt rejected. I was angry. I was frustrated. I used to eat and binge eat as a youngster because that would assuage my feelings of unlovability and unhappiness. When I learned down the road that the reason why my dad wasn't there is he had to start working when he was 12 or 13 to help support the family. He never had a high school education, never had a college education. And he wanted me to have the education, the life that he never had. And then as my dad progressed in his career, he and I bonded on the athletic field. I started playing something called paddle tennis before I transitioned into tennis. My dad loved paddle tennis. We bonded. I felt his love. I felt his approval. And all of the feelings of unlovability and hurt and anger that were lodged in my, in quotes, heart of hearts, they were pushed out. And what came in were feelings of love from my dad, approval, compassion for him that he lost his dad at a very early age, never had the education that he would have loved to have had. So I initially came from a situation where I had a mother who believed in me and never compared me to other kids more advanced stage of development. I had a high school sociology teacher who saw something in me and believed that I could really go far working with people. And I had a tennis coach who never thought I could lose. And in fact, I never lost for him. And those three people were the wind beneath my wings. They believed in me. And my mission in life now, in turn, as I have evolved and grown and fulfilled many of my dreams, is that I love to see what can be in people and give them the steps and help them make the choices to live their dreams and be their best self.
Ken, you mentioned there, and I think this is really interesting, two words, troubled and insecure. Around what age was that? Because I think folks might hear that and they might perk up and say, okay, this sounds like what I deal with, and you were able to flip it. Around what age was that, and what do you tell the people already who are hearing this, who want to flip it and make that big change?
Well, Anthony, I felt this, and I would say 4, 5, 6, and 7,
Wow.
because as I said, my mom was always there and talking with me and reasoning with me. My dad was working 6 days a week, many nights, and his dad died when my dad was very, very young. So he never had a fathering role model to fall back on to communicate with me. So my dad and I just had no communication, no really good communication early on in my life. So I guess there were a few things. One, getting the love from my dad along with my mom's love, that started to fill my heart with positives. The other thing was that when I started to bond with my dad athletically, and I saw that as an overweight, clumsy, insecure kid, that I could be good at something. Paddle tennis, which is like tennis, except you serve underhand, the net is lower, the ball is deader, the racket is held closer to your hand. It's much easier to play and much easier to master. But when I was playing this at 7 or 8 years old, it was the first thing that I did well. And my dad approved of me. He gave me compliments. So it was a confluence of things. One, I bonded with my dad, so I felt his love. Two, I did something that made me see that I had potential to do good things, and that if I worked at it, I practiced, and I lost weight because I was better. I realized I would be better when I could run to the ball more quickly and I was more agile. That incentivized me to not have the M&Ms and the Chunkies and the cheesecake. And I started to lose weight because I found something that we'll talk about later, which was my personal emotional trigger, or my pet. It incentivized me like no other to forego the fattening food because I wanted my dad's approval. I loved the compliments I was getting for the first time about something I did well. Those were huge motivators for me, which motivated me to basically have a healthier lifestyle at a very young age. And I've never been heavy since, by the way, because I found other motivators as I've gotten older to be a better tennis player, to be healthy for my kids so I can be around for my wife and for my children and for their children. So I find different motivators which incentivize me to do good things for myself and for others.
Ken, this is very inspiring to me and really resonates with me. And I was about to ask you the question. You've been such an overachiever, and I was going to ask, in your childhood, who were you trying to please? You, your parents, other people? But the answer seems to be pretty much everybody at every point on the compass, and that's got to be a good thing.
Well, you know, Paul, it is and it isn't. I definitely wanted my dad's approval. I knew I had my mom's approval. Anything I did was great. And I was a late bloomer. And she, as I said, she never compared me with other kids, you know, more advanced stages of development. I was always just good enough for her, and she believed in me. My dad, I had to earn that a bit. And so I really wanted his approval. So it really pushed me and incentivized me to lose the weight and to be good at sports and to do well. Those were good things. But at the end of the day, I think it's really important to be inner directed. And through the years, I developed enough confidence whereby there were times when I wanted my dad's approval, but I did something that was not what he wanted me to do. There was a time when I had the chance to be coached by a world-class tennis player who was going to take me around the world and play tennis or coach me. And I was I think a sophomore or a junior at Harvard. And think about this. My dad had no education and his son got into Harvard. It was the most amazing thing that ever happened to him because he felt that I would have the education and the security because of that education that he never had and always wanted for me. I'm an only child. So they poured all of those expectations into me. When I told my dad that I thought I might leave school to pursue tennis, and I was going to throw away all of those dreams that we both had, it really upset him. Now, it turned out I gave it a lot of thought. And although it would have been very easy for me to say, you know what, I can always go back to school, I realized that, one, I didn't think my body could withstand playing tennis 8 hours a day, practicing 5-6 hours a day, and then playing matches. I didn't think I had the physical makeup. And at the end of the day, I didn't think I was going to be good enough. And it wasn't because I was insecure, but I was realistic. I didn't think I had the backhand and in some ways the speed I needed to play at the highest levels consistently. Now, it was interesting because a year later, I wound up playing Arthur Ashe, who at that time was the 5th ranked player in the world. I played him an exhibition match back in New York City, where I'm from. And I was a senior at Harvard and playing #1 singles and doubles for Harvard. And I defeated him.
Pitt, he beat Arthur Ashe. Did you hear what he just said?
I was
the
waiting on
man
that.
beat Arthur Ashe.
And it was interesting because my dad came up to me and said, maybe you should have played tennis. And, for a moment I went, wait a minute. I had the chance to be coached by one of the best coaches in the world. And you didn't want me to go. You were scared for me to go. You were scared that I was going to fail. But then I thought about it a little bit more that night. I didn't say anything. And I realized that, my dad saw things through his insecure eyes, that he didn't think he would make it. And I think he projected that onto me. And had I made the decision not to play pro tennis and leave college because I wanted to secure my dad's approval, I would have really been resentful because I was living my life for him and not for me, through his eyes and through his values, but not my values. But I realized that I didn't play pro tennis because I didn't think my body would withstand the grind. And I didn't think at the end of the day I could sustain that top level that I needed to sustain. And to this day, I know I made the right decision.
Wow.
So I didn't regret it. And there was a time when I was working for the William Morris Agency and I wanted to start my own company. And my dad, once again, saw William Morris as a wonderful, secure company. Why would I want to lose my security? And once again, I was inner directed. I really thought I could do better for my clients, charging a more competitive commission and doing things more fastly and more proactively for them than being in a big company, which tends to have more rules and regulations and red tape about certain things like traveling to see a client on a moment's notice or flying a client in because they're having a rough time and they need to have some strategy sessions. So I did it anyway. All this to say that I think it's great to have people reinforce you and get people's approval. But at the end of the day, it's so important to do things because it's the right thing for you, because you dug deep and figured out what your value system is, what your goals are, and live and plot a course according to those goals. Don't live to make somebody else happy. Do it. It's nice to take their values and their suggestions into account, and it's nice to make people happy. But at the end of the day, when the applause dies down, and it dies down really quick, you want to be happy with your decision because it's your life.
Yeah. So Pitt, check this out. Let's see. Harvard graduate, magna cum laude.
Okay.
Graduate of Cornell Law School.
Keep it in the Ivy League, okay.
Has launched one of the, and he's got the skins on the wall, one of the greatest talent agencies on planet Earth, world-class tennis player, life coach, and author. And I want to talk about this book because this is superbly well done. You can see it behind Ken. You can also see it here, Aspire Higher. And Ken, let me tell you what in particular I appreciated about this book. It is a life coaching book. It is a self-improvement book, but here's what separates it. There's not a lot of warm and fuzzy, touchy-feely, ethereal, you really can't wrap your hands. What I appreciated about this is your recommendations were specific, they were tangible, they were measurable. They told you exactly what you need to prepare a plan to succeed. Because if you don't prepare to succeed, your chances of succeeding are zero. So as kind of a guy with a little bit of an engineer's brain in a way, the fact that this was so tangible and so specific is what I especially enjoyed about the book.
Well, thank you so much, Paul. Yes, it was really interesting. I wrote this during the pandemic. And I do think it's the best book I have written and may ever write, because it is sort of a melding of all of my other books and sort of my greatest hits. And when we were going through the pandemic and I was seeing all of the negativity, all of the newscasts talking about, obviously, COVID and racism and global warming and inflation and all of the things that we're all dealing with. And I felt so many people were saying, we need more love. We need more civility. But nobody was giving clear, actionable steps as to how to attain all of those great things. And I felt also that a lot of people who I spoke with were emotionally, psychologically, and intellectually stuck. They didn't see a light at the end of the tunnel. They didn't see a brighter day. And in some instances, I still get it. I speak to young people all the time, and they're really worried about global warming. What is their life going to be like in 20 and 30 years from now? Will they be around? What's it going to be like? And, having two children, although they are now young adults, I worry for them. I don't know what it's going to be like 20 and 30 years from now if we don't make some really good decisions. But the thing is that I felt that a lot of people were down, were demoralized, and I wanted to give people the steps to help them elevate their lives, elevate their spirits, and increase the love in their hearts, the self-love in their heart. Because if you love yourself, you love the track that your life is on, you feel like you're worthy of the life choices that you're making and the results of those choices, you're far more likely to bestow love, civility, and kindness unto others. So I am the founder of Positive Life Choice Psychology because throughout my life, I have found that your life is a result of the choices that you make, the good ones and the bad ones. It's, there's some things you can't control. There are some things that are destined for us, but you can control your choices. You can control your actions and your reactions, and you can control your emotions. And you certainly can control your attitude and know what your values are. So there's a lot you can control. And I believe that life choices, the choices that we make, are the keys to elevating our lives, elevating our spirits, and living the lives not only that we long to live, but also being the people, aspiring higher, finding our truth, being the best people we can be. Because if we feel good about who we are and how we conduct our lives, we're going to feel really great about ourselves. Our self-esteem is going to escalate. Our feelings of self-worth are going to elevate. And it's going to catalyze us, motivate us to do really good things for ourselves because we feel that we deserve it. And we're going to do great things for others, which is going to help our country.
Ken, you and I just met today, so we don't know each other
Yes,
that
Anthony.
well at all. Now, I asked this question as someone who looked at negativity bias, and it kind of hit me like a Mack truck. Why do you think is that case? And do other people who read your book that you've talked to and that you speak to face, when they deal with and review negativity bias, does it affect them possibly in the same way? I mean, is that kind of common for you to hear that as a major hurdle?
Yes, Anthony, I hear it all the time. And people don't articulate it as a negativity bias, but what happens is, in fact, let me go back a bit. My son and daughter were taking this psychology class in high school. And that's where I came up with the concept of negativity bias. And what that is that scientists have proven through working with brain studies that we have a proclivity for looking at the negative more than the positive, for being affected by the negative longer and more profoundly than the positive. So what they have said basically is that this was a defense mechanism, especially years ago when we were hunter-gatherers and all of that. We needed to be very, very careful about the things that could harm us. So we had our antennae up to always think about the negative, what can happen. And the thing is that when we're going through a rough time, as we are now in our country, it's way too easy for people to start to spiral down, think about the negative, get mired in the negative. So and that's what we want to not let happen. So Anthony and Paul, my belief is that what you want to have is a strong enough foundation where you don't go down to negative town, where you remain constructive with your choice making and aspire higher. And all of the steps that I talk about prepare everyone to make choices, small ones at the beginning, so you get your victory, so you get your confidence, but making positive life choices that instill in us high feelings of high self-esteem, high self-worth, and confidence that through our life choices, we can begin to elevate our lives and our spirits step by step through each life choice, positive life choice that you make. And if you feel good about yourself and you feel worthy of the life choices that you're making and the sweet results of those choices, you begin to have a strength within you. And if you love yourself, if you love your life, and you feel like you're worthy of good things, the chances are you're going to put the brakes on before you spiral down with the negativity bias and say, okay, what's the constructive step here? What's the constructive path to make the most of the situation that I'm in? And throughout Aspire Higher, I talk about how to develop that strength and confidence, that core confidence, that unshakable confidence, so that you can make positive, constructive choices no matter what the situation is, so that you don't spiral down, so that you have an optimistic, constructive point of view when you're dealing with life detours and things that set you back.
Our guest, and this is just amazing, is super agent and life coach and author Ken Lindner, the author of Aspire Higher. And like everything else he does, Pitt, This has worked out pretty well because this book is now number one on just about every list with any publication having to do with self-help. And Ken, again, what I enjoyed about this is there are cornerstone principles in your book, and they're easy to understand, and they make you want to commit to them. And one of your cornerstone principles, and you've actually briefly already referenced it, is that we need to find our heart of hearts. What does that mean?
Well, the heart of hearts, Paul, to me is sort of an amalgam of your heart, your psyche, and your soul. And we all are subject to so many stimuli, I should say, criticism, hurt, compliments, and our heart of hearts are oftentimes filled by and with those stimuli that we take in. And some of us have had, like I did, a bit of a rocky childhood that didn't make us feel great about ourselves. Situations may have hurt us. We may have felt rejection and internalized those things. So all of us have a heart of hearts that is filled with some positives and some negatives. The more your heart of hearts is filled with positives, I believe, the more you will make positive and constructive decisions for yourself because you feel like you're worthy of those things. And the more you will share love with others. So once again, the key, you can't control what your parents did. You can't control what others have done to you. But you can start to make positive choices which push out the negatives in your heart of hearts and replace them with positives. For example, you can do healthy things for yourself. Take a walk, eat healthy foods, surround yourself with people who care about you and love you and want the best for you. Get away from the toxic people in your life who bring you down. There are many things you can do. And I believe those are all part of making positive choices that lift your life, elevate your feelings of self-esteem and self-worth, elevate your confidence that you can affect positive change in your life. And all of those positives will be put into your heart of hearts. It's very proactive. It is true self-help. You're helping yourself evolve into the happiest, most fulfilled person you can possibly be. And I became an overachiever. And I admitted that I'm an overachiever because I had the formula of being disciplined, knowing that I can make a constructive decision or the best decision I possibly can given the circumstances. I have the confidence to approach anything with a formula for winning. And this is all about that. It's being the best person you can be and living and fulfilling your dreams through the life choices that you make.
So, Ken, tell me if I'm wrong here. Aspire Higher is not only a guide to a more positive you, but could this be considered therapy?
Well, I guess it certainly can, Anthony, because it is self-help. It's wherever you are today, you can start elevating your life, your spirits, yourself, your self-esteem by starting to make bit by bit, step by step, small life choices that you can get your victories, get that confidence. It's interesting. Years and years ago, I was watching a golf tournament that Tiger Woods in his heyday was playing. And he was down by 5 strokes going into the final round. And he came back and won the tournament by 1 stroke. And the commentator interviewed Tiger at the conclusion of the tournament. And he said, Tiger, what was in your head? What's your mindset when you're down by 5 strokes going into the final round? And then you win by 1 stroke. And Tiger succinctly and confidently said, I knew I could do it. I've done it before. And that's what I want for everyone. to make small life choices, get your victories, get your confidence, and then make more important life choices as you go along. And at some point, it starts to click in. You know what? I can affect positive change in my life. I can have a better life through my choices. And this is all about you making it work for yourself, not being influenced by others. No, and by the way, let me go over for a second what aspire higher means to me. It's so important for everyone out there to know what your values are. What are your most important values? What are your treasured dreams? What kind of person do you really want to be? Because if you know that, then you can aspire higher or highest by then making the choices, taking the steps to help you get there. But how can you make great life choices if you haven't taken the time to know what you really want in your life? What will make your heart sing? So it's so important for everyone to take quiet time and go into your heart of hearts and find out what it is you really want. Not what your mother wants or father wants for you, not what your professors want or your employer wants or your spouse or partner wants. What you want, what will make you happy. Because then you can make life choices that bring about wonderful results and put you on the path to getting to where you want to go.
See, once again, that's so tangible. You're talking about compiling, Ken, what you have referred to as an aspirational goal list. And we'll talk more about list making in a minute because it's really beneficial. But you're also recommending that we all try to avoid what you refer to as snapshot judgments, and that we try to take personal bias out of the picture. That one really resonated with me because I was blessed with a father who really imbued me with the idea that we have not just a need, but an obligation to listen to other people and consider other people's points of view. And what he instilled in me was the knowledge that you don't have to agree with them, but you cannot ignore them, and you must consider their points of view. And that's kind of what I'm hearing in this recommendation.
Hey, that's unlike politics today, but that's a whole different subject matter here.
Isn't it? Yeah.
Well, maybe it isn't a whole different subject matter. Maybe that's part of the problem we have in the country right now.
Talking past each other and not listening.
Exactly.
And
I'm sorry, Ken.
And it's really human disrespect. If you're not going to consider somebody else's point of view, you clearly don't respect them.
Well, I love what we're talking about here. And, you know, when I was back in Brooklyn, New York, where I'm from, everybody thought, or many people thought a certain way. But when I started to go on a tennis tour around the country as a junior, I saw so many, or I heard so many different points of view. I saw so many different ways of doing things. And it opened my mind to understand that everything I've been taught or everything I've learned, it isn't always the best way. Or there may be other ways that are not only better or equally as good, and they may be more appropriate at different time. And it opened my mind to the fact that it's so important to understand where others are coming from, because with understanding comes respect, comes hopefully love. But you must take the time to understand others. It's so important. Now, I think we're far more likely to want to understand others and do good things for others if you love yourself first. Because, as many people would say, you can't give something that you don't have. So if you have love for yourself and your heart is full of love, you're far more likely to extend yourself lovingly to others. So that's why this process of filling your heart of hearts with love and self-love and good feeling is so important for all of us to want to understand others, grow to respect others, be civil to others, be kind and loving to others. Could you imagine if all of us did that? And there is a concept in Aspire Higher that I absolutely love. And again, it's a concept that my son and daughter came home with one day from their psychology class. And the concept is being a solutionary. And I, as a constructive decision maker, thought, well, being a solutionary means finding a great solution to a problem. But I learned it was far more involved and far more important than that. Being a solutionary means that you not only find a constructive solution or path to a problem or issue or roadblock that you're facing, but that you find a solution that elevates others as well, or at a minimum, doesn't hurt others. You become socially responsible. And could you imagine if everybody in our country became a solutionary? That is, we make our choices, we make our decisions, not only to help ourselves, but to benefit and elevate others. It would be game-changing for us. And again, I believe we're more likely to be solutionaries if we feel good about ourselves, love ourselves, and we're far more likely to love others. And when I say love ourselves, it's not something filled with ego. Mm-hmm. It is all about wanting to take good care of ourselves, nurturing our well-being, wanting the best for ourselves in so many ways, our health, our relationships, our jobs, whatever they are, our hobbies, our passions. And it's so important that you have self-love, because if you have self-love, you're going to make really great decisions for yourself. And if, as I said again, if you love yourself, have love in your heart, you're far more likely to extend that love to others.
Ken, how do you go from 40 years ago representing television clients and working contracts with them and trying to find them jobs to being at this level of self-help? Was there a particular client you work with that said, hey, Ken, you helped me in ways that I wasn't expecting?
Well, Anthony, when I was in college, I actually wrote a thesis on decision making. And the concept was how our decisions and choices affect our feelings of self-worth and self-esteem. So I've always been very cognizant of the power of our choices. So for me, if I find people who are talented, because that's the first step. You've got to find people who are really effective, authentic communicators on air. But once you do that, if you're going to, as I say, choreograph your career, and I trademarked the term career choreography. It was the book before Aspire Higher. I am a career choreographer. And what that means is there's a logical set of steps that anyone can take to put the percentages in their favor that they will attain their highest goals and live their dreams. You just have to figure out what the most logical, creative, and effective steps are. So it's all about making choices. So when I guide careers, Anthony and Paul, and I've been doing that for almost 40 years, it's all about making the right choices. What are the right vehicles to take? What is the right behavior to adopt in a particular situation? What will put the percentages in your favor that you will, in fact, attain your goals and live your dreams? It's all about making great choices. So it's always been about making choices. So that's pretty much it.
Ken, you're so right. I mean, we've all been through hard knocks.
Yes.
Living life a long time, you live, you learn. You're so correct when you say that it's all about first knowing who you are, and then being secure in who you are and being faithful to who you are. And part of that is listening to other people. And Ken, I thought you had a beautiful way of putting this in the book when you said that life is like a Rorschach test, meaning we're all going to see different things, and that's cool.
We're all going to see different things, but don't be sure that your take is the best. If we are, I really believe that we should all be students of life. I know that I am. And I learn from everyone every day, whether they do something well. If they do something well, maybe I want to emulate it and do it my way so I can incorporate it comfortably into my behavioral repertoire. Or if somebody does something poorly, then I know what I don't want to do. And you know what? When you learn from others, hopefully you don't have to make their mistakes. So I learned how to play paddle tennis and tennis by watching the best players and seeing what they do, seeing how they act, seeing how they stroke the ball, seeing how they volley and serve. That's how I learned, by watching. And I try to take the best of what I saw and as I said, incorporate it into my repertoire and what I can do. So I am very, very, very respectful of others because there's a lot I can learn and I don't know where they're coming from. So getting back to what you said earlier, Paul, I don't believe in taking snapshots because you can't judge a book by its cover. You need to read the book or at least get a sense of what the book is about. You need to understand where people are coming from because, somebody might not treat you well. Well, who knows? Maybe somebody died. Maybe somebody's sick. Maybe somebody had a very bad day. And I don't take it personally if they don't treat me what I would feel is the correct way, because who knows who they have spoken with just before they talked with me. So I try to be understanding and try to understand where people are coming from. It has helped me immeasurably, and it keeps me calm and cool and hopefully a very compassionate and humane individual.
Ken, I know right now my wife wants me to read this cover to cover. That is no joke. She wants me to read this cover.
Dude, I want you to read it. Cover
yes.
to cover.
You know what? I'm sitting here
because I enjoyed it the entire way.
I have to go all the way through this, and I need to do it very soon. And this isn't really a question. It's a statement, and tell me if I'm right. It's never too late.
Never too late.
Because I think some people think, and sometimes I have to battle with this myself, it's too late.
Well, Anthony, I can tell you it's never too late. The key is just to relax and be ready to embrace the fact that you can begin to elevate your life through the choices that you make, but you don't want to start with big choices. It gets too daunting. My wife has a great, great saying, cinch by the inch. Start small. See that you can affect positive change in your life. And you know what? I believe we all have our life paths. And sometimes we're meant to start things later. I know as a late bloomer, a lot of things have come to me later. I've understood things a little later than others. I wasn't a really great student early on. I was not a good athlete early on. I've actually learned to be a late bloomer and live with it and thrive with it. Hopefully I have the longevity so that I can do everything I want to do on my maybe slower timetable. But it's never too late. You can start today. And in fact, in Aspire Higher, there's a whole chapter on jump-starting your life today.
I like that.
But you need to commit to wanting to lift your life and have a better life and be the person you really want to be, the person you can be proud of. Because if you feel great about yourself, you're going to continue to make great life choices for you and the people that you love.
Ken, I've got to get you to talk about this concept from your book. This made the hair stand up on my arms. The classical term hineni, which means I am here. I mean, to me, that's almost like Neil Diamond's I Am, I Said. You have to embrace that.
Well,
great
yes.
song. Great choice, too, there.
To me, hineni is so important. It is the concept of I am here. Let me make the most of my life. Let me be in tune with who I am. Let me be a light in other people's lives. I'm here. Let me make it count. I mean, there's so many things that I talk about what Hineni means to me and how I think if we can be in the moment, make the most of our lives, and as I said, elevate others, it's going to make such a difference in your life.
Wow. We were talking about making lists, and I am an inveterate list maker. I mean, there's nothing in my life, Pitt, that I enjoy more than checking those boxes, drawing those lines through them. It makes me feel in control of my life.
Well, accomplished too. You're accomplishing something as you go through the list.
And you can see it.
You're winning.
And again, that's what's cool about this book is that everything Ken is talking about is tangible and measurable. And you're suggesting that we make a series of lists. And I love this distinction. We've talked a little bit about the aspirational goal list, GOAL, but you've also talked about the toxic gold, GOLD list. What's that about?
Well, gold for me, as I define it in, Aspire Higher, are the things you really want in your life and the things you don't want in your life, because that's just as important. It's like if you're looking for a job or a relationship, you want to know what you need to be happy. And you also want to identify what will not make you happy. What are deal breakers? And it's so important. So I believe making a list for these things is so important because one, first of all, it gets you to think. It gets you to think. It gets you to think about what it is I really love, what it is that will make me happy. What is it that I'm good at? And what is it that I don't want in my life? What is it that I want? Or who do I not want in my life? What's the kind of person that I don't want in my life? So it's really important because it gets you to think, but also it gets you to prioritize. It's really important to know what you want the most because that's the end game. Those are the things that are your goal. Because again, every choice that you make, every step that you take, sounds like the police song, is going to help you get to your goal. So it's really important to make lists because you really need to sit down and be an honest, objective miner of those nuggets of gold in your heart so that you know what the end game is so that you can take the steps to get there.
We're talking about coaching, and if you guys will indulge me, I'd like to go to each point on this triangle or tripod right now and get everybody to talk about how coaching impacted you and changed your life. And I'm very fortunate in that I was blessed with unbelievable coaches. It is not an exaggeration to say that coaches to a large degree raised me. And I'm so fortunate that they did it the right way and that they loved me. And one of the things they did is they made me know that people will largely become who you tell them they are.
Okay.
And so you really got to be careful about that, because if you tell somebody, particularly a young person, that they have potential, they have worth, they're going to embrace that. On the other hand, if you carelessly, one time, say something reckless, you can really damage this person. And I was so fortunate because I was insecure in a lot of ways, except for one thing. I flat out knew I could catch a football. There was no question about that. I had questions about everything else. But I had a coach tell me out of nowhere one day, "You're a good player." Well, nobody ever told me I was a good player. So all of a sudden, I'm a good player. And it made all the difference in the world. And then flash forward 40 years, I had a coach who was incredibly demanding in high school. I mean, to the point where I got some stories for you, but he later left coaching and entered the clergy. And I got together with him, Pitt and Ken, at a reunion. And of course, now our relationship's different because we're at least both adults. But on the other hand, he's still Coach Wallen, and I'm still going to defer. And I said, "Coach, tell me, now that you've entered the clergy, what is it that you've learned?" And he did not hesitate. He said, "Paul, what I've learned is that every human being you encounter in any walk of life, in any venue, in any environment, every single one of them is hurting in a way you have no knowledge of. Once you realize that and take that into account, you're not only a better human being, but your life changes for the better.
Well, first of all, I think that's brilliant. My goal is to be a bright light in as many people's lives as I possibly can be. And I am very, very cognizant of the fact that one's words can be very hurtful. I've heard a lot of compliments in my life, and sort of like, that's great. In some ways, I'm used to certain kinds of compliments. But I will tell you, it's been the criticism that have always stuck with me. The criticism like somebody once said, he'll never be any good. He's not fast enough. He's not thin enough. He's not this enough. I remember those, and those cut me to the core. The other thing is that even when it comes to judging broadcasting talent, which is what I do every day when I have to decide whether I'm going to take a client on, I'm always encouraging because, tastes are subjective. Not everybody loved the Beatles. Not everybody, not everybody loves Billie Eilish. Whomever it is, it's all subjective. And just because I don't think somebody is the kind of person that I can market enthusiastically doesn't mean that person won't have a hugely successful career, because different employers see different things in different people and they have different needs. And I see many people who, as an agency, we didn't represent or didn't go after, who have incredibly successful careers. So I am encouraging to everyone because I believe everyone has potential and you want them to fulfill that potential. You don't want to be a detriment to somebody fulfilling that potential. Somebody with credibility or significance in somebody's life, good words, as your coach had for you, Paul, kind words, encouraging words can mean everything. Conversely, if you have discouraging words, that makes somebody not pursue something. Who knows? And that's just horrible. Everybody should give it their best shot because you never know what could happen. As I was a late bloomer, many people did not see my potential. Luckily, my mom, my tennis coach, and my sociology teacher did. Their kind words, their encouraging words were the wind beneath my wings and gave me the confidence. And if they believe in me that much, maybe they see something in me, just as your coach saw something really great in you, Paul.
Pitt, how about you? How has coaching impacted you?
When you were speaking of your experience and then listening to Ken, I was thinking of my dad as being my first coach, and the first coach who was very positive about who I was. I just started thinking of my dad. I'm glad my dad is still with us. That's all I could think of was my dad, it's right here in my heart now. And
I can see it, I can hear it. And
he wasn't always around because being in the military, there was a couple of times where he had to go to another country and we stayed back.
Yeah.
And I was just thinking, it must have been eating him up that he couldn't coach us face to face all the time and he couldn't be at all the games.
So he wasn't always there, but he was always there.
He was always there. Yeah. So, I was listening to you, listening to Ken, and thinking of my dad at the same time. So, wow, that was interesting. Had a moment there. Ken, though, I'm gonna ask you a question about when I'm looking at the book here, even all the way down to the cover. When I read something, I like to know that it's going to have a connection with my belief in God and my spirituality, and I'm thinking, I think of the term aspire higher, that you can have a greater connection with your God, with whatever sense of spirituality you deal with, through positive life change. Am I right in thinking this?
No question. And you know what's so interesting, Anthony, is that I didn't foresee this, but Aspire Higher was the number one religion and spirituality book on Amazon for many, many weeks. And I believe people who read it recommended it to other people because that's exactly right. You know, the other thing is we talk about all the things you can control. There are some things you can't control. And whether you believe in God or fate or whatever force you believe in, there are certain things that happen to all of us that are unforeseen, many times maybe unwanted, but they're the experiences we're supposed to have and the lessons we're supposed to learn. And there are ways of dealing with the detours, the unforeseen, constructively. And, you know, that part of that is, you know, how do you deal with the things that, in quote, your God or whatever force you believe you're meant to have happen to you? I do believe that the experiences that I have, for the most part, are things that are supposed to happen to me. I was supposed to meet my wife at a certain time, have my children at a certain time. I was supposed to, I thought I was going to be an entertainment attorney, and through a confluence of unforeseen things, I wound up becoming an agent at the William Morris Agency. I never thought I was going to be a talent agent. It wasn't even the realm of possibility until I met the president of William Morris, just because I wanted to meet the head of the agency that was the biggest client of the law firm I was just about to accept an offer from. And I wound up working for the agency instead. And there were jobs I should have gotten that I realize now I never should have gotten. They would have been the worst things for me, even though at the moment I thought they were the best things for me. Yeah. So things work out for a reason. And I believe things happen for a reason. You just have to go with it, have faith. There's something I talk about in Inspired Higher called the just trust rule. Sometimes you just have to trust that when things don't go the way you want them to go, or you think they were meant to go, trust that maybe there's a reason why. There's an important lesson to learn, an important experience to have.
What's that line?
And
Thank God sometimes for unanswered prayers, no question. Ken, this is an absolute privilege. We've only got about a minute left, unfortunately.
Okay.
But please tell people where they could get this remarkable book, which carries our highest recommendation. This is great stuff.
Oh, well, thank you. Well, you can get the book on Amazon.com, at BarnesandNoble.com, at BooksAMillion.com. You can get it on my website, where I have many, many essays on this subject. It's PositiveLifeChoicePsychology.com. And if you'd like to keep in touch with me through Instagram, it's Ken Lindner, Lindner, PLCP, Positive Life Choice Psychology.
Ken, it's been an absolute privilege and honor, and thank you. And to put this in tennis terms, that was a straight set victory, buddy.
It's been great. And you guys are so wonderful. You ask incredible questions. You obviously have tremendous heart and soul. And it's been a pleasure to be with both of you.
I need to know where to send the check for this therapy session I was just a part of.
You know what? It really was soothing. And it really did get us in touch with ourselves. And that's what leads to success. Ken, again, thank you so much. And we'll look forward to doing this again very soon.
Thank you, Ken.
Well, I would love to. Have a great day.
You too. That's just a wow, is all I can say.
It is. Yeah.
You know, about the only thing that I would add right here is that all these points are just so spot on. We're at our best when we live in the moment. So if there's one thing that I have discovered the hard way in my life works best when I can focus on nothing other than next. It's the easiest thing in the world to understand and the hardest thing to do because we're all anxiety ridden. What happened before, whether it was good or bad, it's gone. Mm-hmm. What may happen later, guess what, folks? It's the human condition. You're not even guaranteed that opportunity. All we have is the right here and the right now. And we will see you next time on Radically Rational, the podcast.